I'm happy to be in Miami. I was walking past the cinema, and today Bad Boys launched. So anybody go to the cinema, see Bad Boys? Anybody going tonight? Or we're all going to the block party. But anyway, that's coming tonight. And I thought it was actually really interesting because they were talking about bad boys, right? And one of the things in entrepreneur land, where we're all from, basically, it's about being a bit disobedient. So we've all historically are a bit bad boys, and the industry does have a bit of a reputation for being bad boys. And I think this statement from Don Valentine from Sequoia sort of resonated pretty well with all of us. But then most of us travel around the world a lot. And I just got off the flight. I'd watched The Irishman on the Netflix. Anybody seen Irishman? Woo, yeah. It's a long movie, 3.5 hours, huh? How many watched it in one go? Oh, 2 people. It took me 3 goes to watch it. But one thing that really stood out was when Jimmy Hoffa was constantly arguing about solidarity. And I think, huh? What? Sorry, okay, I thought everybody would have seen it. But anyway, yeah, so he was talking about solidarity a lot and then pulling together a lot of the units, as they were called. And I thought that was really interesting given where we're at and sort of the sort of fork at the end of the road that we're at in the industry. And one of the other things that I saw was there's a blog post by Balaji on nakamoto.com where he talks about Bitcoin being the flag of technology. And so in essence, basically what he's saying is that instead of calling it internet and using TCP IP and all of that, we call it the internet. And so what we're doing is we're calling overall cryptocurrencies, we're calling Bitcoin. That's the technology that we're living in. And maybe going forward, that's what everybody outside of the existing markets, outside of the crypto community, is referring to as the industry that we're living in. And so remember, it's still a tiny industry. The industry that we live in is super small with 240 billion. It's all green today, by the way. And whoever's holding altcoins is doing really well because they're sort of creeping up and doing really well, especially if you're holding Bitcoin Cash, up 11% today. But that said, you look at the whole financial services industry. It's huge. And we in crypto are tiny, but we're making a lot of noise. Everybody's reading about it and hearing about it. An analogy I make a lot is we're on this island. There's a big moat around this island. People are looking at this island. They see us on this island, and they're really interested in this island, but they don't know how to get onto it. They're nervous about it. Last time they tried was really difficult. And on this island, they're all of us living in tribes, right? We have all these different tribes. We keep each other honest. We poke each other. We scratch each other or beat each other. We partner with each other as well in some cases. But we all have our own communities on this island. And we interact, and again, we got lots of people interested. What's going on that island? Who are all these people? And I think our task in terms of being and working together is to try and get more of these people to cross and bridge and to come and join us on the island. So we can then go and reclaim land and make a bigger island so that we bridge this moat and we don't have this moat anymore and it becomes seamless walking across the island. And that's one thing I think we can do together as a community. And remember, we're fighting against big institutions, big established players. We're competing against them. The regulators as well, who are protecting the banks and the existing financial institutions, who, by the way, have a lot of money in a really big industry, and they don't want us going into that industry. And for us, they're trying to innovate. They're trying to use us to educate them so that they can get better and use their distribution network to then combat against us. And they're trying to put us onto their rails versus us trying to stick to our rails and get everybody onto our rails. And that's what we're trying to do. And so I really believe that's important. And you see, what Libra's doing, they're helping. They got big distribution already once they get going. But they're doing a lot of fighting for us, which is actually helpful. You got China, they announced the crypto coin, right? And look at the spike that you get in China when a government endorses it, everybody all of a sudden is interested in it. You've got the European government. They're trying to do their central bank distribution and currency. They announce on the one hand they don't want to stop private solutions, but on the flip side, they put much more stringent regulation in place. Why? Because they want to protect the existing incumbents that own most of the real estate and physical assets in those markets. So on that aspect, we're up against some big boys that are really trying to give us a hard time. But on the flip side, we have certain advantages, and I think that play in our favor. A lot of people around the world are really upset with the existing established solutions that are out there, the governments that are in place. You have places like Hong Kong where you have the yellow movement, you have Venezuela. We know all of this. I don't need to go into it too much. But at the same time, you have governments that are slightly distracted with Brexit. So they're not sure what to do. In the US, we got votes coming up in this year, right? So we're going into the elections, so people are going to be distracted. Not too many laws are going to come out. So there's a window for us to really move and try and innovate and get our innovations distributed into the audience and across the market. We have negative interest rates, not here in the US, but in about, I think, the top 10 countries after the US all have negative interest rates up through to 30 years out. So you can borrow money and get paid to borrow money. In Sweden, you get paid to borrow money. I was in, where was it, Paris. A big drinking company which sells alcohol and luxury brands did a 4-year bond, $2 billion, and at 0% interest. And it was oversubscribed 4x. So 4 times, so people are struggling to find places to invest and wondering how they can invest. You've got governments that are printing money and putting money into the market. So inflation is going to come at some point in these markets. I think the repo market in the US, you had 1 week where the Fed printed $500 billion in 1 week. So a significant amount of cash is being injected into the market, which actually helps. I mean, anybody that owns equity in shares or on the public markets that has the ability to own shares has seen a nice rise. But I mean, the flip side, what's the longer term benefit for that? I think we now have, didn't Google just break the $1 trillion mark? I think now Google's a $1 trillion market cap. So that's the 4th company that's broken a $1 trillion market cap. The government in Europe is no more innocent. They've just announced, I think 6 months ago, they announced every month we're going to do $20 billion worth of buybacks of securities from banking institutions that have made default loans or that have bad paper on their books that they want to offload. So you're just seeing a lot of opportunity for us that's only further bringing upset to users, or people are getting more and more upset. You got global conflict, Middle East, obviously. You've got trade conflict between China and the US. And so that's leading a big opportunity for us as an industry to try and change the narrative. How do we leverage all of that turmoil, all of that bad news for the people and the populations out there to our benefit? How do we do that, and how do we get into enabling them to create their own money and their own currency, right? We got to go after new clusters. All these people out there that are looking at us on the island, how do we attract them to come across the island? Give them the level of comfort that they come to the island. Who are they? Where are they? And how do we attract them and invite them to our island, which in essence is going to drive adoption and consumption and usage of our cryptocurrencies. And so what do we want to do at Bitcoin.com? We want to help them come across, and we want to help them drive the use of money, give them access to this modern money that we have created, and ultimately allow them to retain control so that they have control on a non-custodial basis. They have the funds on their phone. And so where we at Bitcoin.com started, we started off in BTC, and that sort of has now become the sort of gold standard. It's become, the digital gold, if you will. And so where we've seen innovation happen is really in Bitcoin Cash, and that's why we have really adopted Bitcoin Cash and are really driving Bitcoin Cash going forward. And as you know, we're going to continue to drive that and move that a lot harder and faster, keep it fast and keep it cheap. That's really what we want to do, and enable everybody to be able to transact with Bitcoin Cash and use it really as digital money. We're seeing a growth. So since the last 6 months, we've really doubled down on Bitcoin Cash. We've seen growth around the world. Community leaders are really driving adoption, and we're seeing software developers come to the Bitcoin Cash platform. The tools are there. The services are there. The developers are there. The community is strong. And so that's why new, young, hungry entrepreneurs in software development are coming to Bitcoin Cash. And we're seeing that around the world. And so that's growing, and we're going to see that grow, and we're going to sort of help that and continue to invest in that. They're coming from everywhere. It's a global phenomenon, and we're not limited by legal boundaries and borders that are put in place by regulators. Cryptocurrency moves borderlessly, and so we have to invest in communities around the world. One of the things that's been really helping drive and attract these communities is a new service that's been put onto the Bitcoin Cash blockchain, Simple Ledger Protocol. Basically, that allows the tokenization of services on top of the Bitcoin Cash platform. And so that's really driven a lot of traffic. In the last couple of months, you see 6,500 plus tokens have already been created. Not all of them very mature, but still a lot of them coming out of the woodworks. More than 500,000 transactions already in the last couple of months. In addition to that, we've launched a dividend calculator. So you can actually receive dividends. If you are a token holder, I can share with you dividends in the form of Bitcoin Cash or other tokens. How many of you downloaded the Badger wallet? So if you open your Badger wallet and you go into your wallet, you will see a new token in there. That token is a lead token. That was paid through one transaction, all in one go, to 104 wallet holders. There are 104 of you that actually owned the Miami token that was awarded to you when you actually got the Bitcoin. How many did you get? 500? Yeah, there you go. And it was, did you get it or you didn't get it? Yeah. Got it, there you go. 5,000, there you go. But again, that was distributed in one simple go, looking on the Explorer, how many wallets actually have the Miami token, and then distributed accordingly. There's basically a total amount of 500,000 lead tokens that were distributed. And so that's when we launched. If you go and you have time, go to mint.bitcoin.com. We're launching that today. That's live on our website. You can actually enable anybody to create, manage, and build and share dividends to anyone. You can do your own token now. Everybody can do that very simply in one portal. You don't need to be a sophisticated rocket scientist to be able to create your own token. And here you go. It's a simple portal. You can see you can create your own tokens very simply online. You can give it a name, a ticker symbol. You can identify how many you want to mint, and then you can give it a decimal plot. You can have 8 decimals, you can have 2 decimal points after it, and then you can have them created. You then have a portfolio of tokens. You might have multiple tokens. And then of those tokens, you can then figure out how you can then share dividends, manage those, have multi-sig, so you have multiple people deciding how to distribute those tokens to whomever in your constituent you may want to distribute them to. Ultimately, you need a wallet. You all have the Badger wallet. That is one wallet that already accepts SLP today. And by the way, in the future, that wallet can be white labeled. We have bots. So on Telegram, you can now start tipping people with these tokens. So you have a simple bot, you can create a bot, and you can very simply be able to tip all your community inside a given channel on Telegram. And you're seeing a lot of that. So there's the spice token that's already out there. There's the honk token. There's the beer token. And they're all tipping each other beers and spices and honks and leads. So you can actually tip everybody, whoever you want, for a good comment, and you can use icons to do that. So the creativity around trying to embrace communities for sharing an SLP token amongst each other is growing, and that's what's attracting all of those new developers to the Bitcoin Cash platform. Again, as I mentioned, I can pay dividends to token holders. I can pay them in Bitcoin Cash or in another dividend. So you can choose to do that, and you can do that again from one simple interface, one portal that you have on mint.bitcoin.com. Again, you have tools. You want to take a program, you want to put a smart contract around it, you can do that as well. Exchanges already support SLP tokens. So you can go to these 4 exchanges today and you can actually find SLP tokens listed on there. Of course, the Bitcoin.com exchange also supports SLP, and you have a number of them up there. Already today on the Bitcoin.com exchange, you find a number of tokens out there. Flexcoin, which is a futures market. Spice token, I mentioned them earlier. They started a year ago, and they started just purely by Telegram, sharing it around amongst each other, and now they're listed on 2, 3, 4 exchanges out there. On the CoinEx exchange in China, on the CryptoPhil exchange, and obviously on the Bitcoin.com exchange as well. I mentioned the lead token. You now all have lead tokens. That's a token for people contributing to the Bitcoin Cash community. How am I doing for time? I've got to go. Okay. We have a wallet. A lot of this is going to be integrated into the Bitcoin.com wallet, so you'll see that in there. If you haven't got it on your phone, please download it now as well. You'll have SLP support, and it will come with a whole bunch of other features. But where the new market's going to come from, really, and where the new users are going to come from, think about it today. Just as an example, this is just inspiration. You've got loyalty points. We all have air miles. We all have hotel loyalty points. We all have retail merchant loyalty points. Imagine if all of those would go on to tokens, would become tokens. They're all legitimized, they're all accounted for, they're all compliant with US GAAP, so they're actually legitimate coins or pieces of value that are traded for in return for dollar amount. Imagine if we can get those into tokens and get the users that are adopting and driving and using those award points using crypto. That's how we're going to attract new users to come into the cryptocurrency world with things that they are familiar with and with brands that they trust. And one thing that happens, change comes fast. This is an example in China. 4 years ago, there was no credit card, there was nothing there, and now 80% of all transactions are done using WeChat and Alipay. And if you don't believe it, you think it's only China, no, it's not. You go back 100 years ago, I think we heard earlier today about the auto industry. You go back in 1900, that's Wall Street. There was one car and there were all horse carriages in 1900. 13 years later, there's one horse carriage and it's all cars. And that's in an old, heavy industry that relies on physical products, manufacturing, etc. So that's how fast change comes. So let's get ready for it and let's try and drive this change jointly into the market. Thank you.